Hi there. So it's Brian Baker again with the Conspiracy Crush podcast YouTube channel. I'm here with Heather Simpson, who is one of the co-founders of Back to the Vax, which is a website dedicated to helping people overcome the anti-vax conspiracy theories that have been so prevalent in the recent years. She's been featured on a few big media channels, MSNBC and CNN, I think, for sure. Thanks so much for joining me. It's a real honor, and I really appreciate you taking a bit of time. I know it's busy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So can you just sort of start by giving me like your backgrounder? Where you were, why you sort of started getting sucked into these ideas, and then just feel free to whatever jumps to mind. Our minds are based on association, so whatever jumps to mind and you think is relevant, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, so I grew up fully vaccinated. Me and my brothers got all of our shots. It was not even something that we second guessed. It was just a thing that we hated. We all hate needles, all of my brothers and I. But we did it. I barely scratched myself when I was like 23, or actually I think I was like 21, with maybe possibly rusty jewelry, and I didn't take any chances, and I ran to urgent care to get a tetanus shot. So I didn't really think anything of it. It wasn't until I had to get a flu shot, and I posted about it, I had to get it for school, that my friend's mom calls me, just panicked, and says, "Hey, I saw that somebody got a flu shot one time and they started walking backwards, like for life." And I was like, that's so ridiculous. But it was this ridiculous little seed that just was planted, even though there was no merit to it. And I knew that. But I just didn't even really know that anti-vaxxers existed until that moment. And then that seed was planted in such a way that when an ad came for a docu-series, I wanted to watch it. It basically said that it was going to show both sides, but it didn't. So I watched all 7 hours of it, and it was just doctor after doctor saying that if you avoid vaccines, you'll avoid autism, cancer, autoimmune conditions, allergies, everything. If you love your child, you'll avoid vaccines. So me and my ex-husband at the time were trying to have a baby, and we were like, okay, we're not going to vaccinate after what we just watched. Like, we would be crazy to vaccinate. And there was absolutely no part of me that believed the backwards walking with a flu shot. But that I joke because that was the moment where I was even aware that vaccines were a topic of concern for anybody. And it just kind of went into chaos after that.
Yeah, so I mean that's fascinating because conspiracy theories. I mean, it's a really general term and it's oversimplified, of course, but I mean, it really is. Some of the stuff is just on its face, absurd, right? So walking backwards, but if you've and I was sort of in the same sort of situation. I had never really encountered, information that was just blatantly potentially false. I just kind of just believe that people would never do that. That people would never just put stuff like that out there.
Believe the good in people. I do that too.
Yeah. So, and that's real. Based off of our conversation on the phone, I guess a little bit while back now, it's kind of what I really wanted to get into with you, because your discovery, your path of discovery was really about, you didn't just take these conspiracy theories sitting down. I mean, you were motivated to get out there and try and spread the message and try to save the world, right?
Yes, I love that you said it that way, because that's true.
Yeah, and I was kind of like the same. When I was sort of sucked in, I was like, man, people have got to know about this. This is scary, and so can you kind of bring me through your own psychology in that process?
Yeah, so, and I haven't actually told anybody this, but when I was, I grew up Christian, so and I am still Christian, but one of the scenarios I would learn about in church is the reason we should tell everybody our beliefs and try to convert everybody, this is what I believed when I was little, is if everyone had, a virus, irony, and you had the cure in a bottle, would you not or if you discovered the cure, would you not tell as many people as you could? And, little Heather was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I have to tell everybody about, my faith and try to save them from hell. That was my invasive belief system back then. So that kind of went into my belief system with vaccines. I was like, if this is causing autism in kids, why am I not trying to save, people? And I hate how, what's the word? Is ableistic a word? Ableistic, it should be.
I think it is.
Okay.
Yes. I think people will, as the beauty of the English language is that as long as other people understand what you're saying, it works.
Okay, so hopefully there's people get that. But
yeah.
I hate that I felt like I had to save people from autism, but I thought, I got to save people from cancer. Autism, autoimmune diseases, I have the cure. I have to tell everybody. And if I don't tell everybody, I don't really love my friends and family. I have to. I really thought if I could prevent one kid from getting vaccinated, I will have done my job. And it's worth all the hate that I'm receiving. I mean, I really had the best motives in the worst kind of way.
That's, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, how many anti-vaxxers do you think know that they are, spreading disinformation, and compared to how many that just simply believe it because they've been convinced, or kind of like in your state of mind that you used to be in, where you really believed it and you're trying to save folks?
I don't believe that I've ever met a person, an anti-vaxxer, that didn't truly believe what they were saying. That being said, the normal people that I've met don't believe it, but I do believe that the bigger anti-vaxxers that are running for office and things like that might know a thing or two about how what they're saying is false. And they have other priorities behind it. I've met people that are making a ton of money through this. I've been offered a job working for those people, and there's no way that they truly believe. Some of these people don't even have kids, and they're fighting so hard to make sure kids are not vaccinated. It just doesn't totally sit right. And then you learn that they actually got their vaccines. So it's a tangled web when you start making a ton of money and you get famous doing it.
Yeah, and that's that's part of what I'm trying to explore too, right? I mean, they years ago when they did these studies around how many people are sociopathic, and these are oversimplifications, right? But people that just don't have a conscience, they're basically shameless.
Yes.
They said it was about 1% of the population, and that 1% of the population was causing about 50% of the domestic violence calls, for instance, right? Because they were, if you get tangled up with one of these people, they just are drama all the time around these folks.
Right.
And they are shameless, so they can lie without feeling ashamed.
Yeah.
They can do things that are just blatantly self-interested, without worrying about the ramifications to the people out there that they don't see. And those people tend to, they're the ones that are really causing all of this. I mean, they're just effing liars.
Yes.
They're doing it for their own self-interest. And what are your thoughts on that sort of assertion about, it sounds like it kind of fits with what you were saying, but I'm wondering what you're thinking now.
Absolutely. Just hearing these people talk, some of them have their own, talk shows, and just watching them talk, I'm like, you don't believe this. I mean, there's one guy that has his own, kind of talk show online, or he did, and he's real famous in the anti-vax world, but he used to work in film and television, and now he does this, so it's kind of like, that played right. He probably realized, oh, this has a pretty big fan base. I'm just going to go right into this because this pays off really well. I'm good looking. Everybody's eating what I say. I mean, I can't look at these people and listen to what they're saying without thinking that there's no way they believe any of that. That, I mean, they are lying. They're lying. And these people that eat it up are not lying. I mean, they truly believe it, and they truly want to save their friends and family. They truly think, for example, that the COVID vaccine will kill their neighbor. I mean, they truly, from the bottom of their hearts, think that. They're good people. A lot of them are good people. They just are getting fed by the wrong people. They're getting fed information or misinformation, and social media outlets are allowing it because a lot of these anti-vaxxers have paid big money for ads, and a lot of the social media outlets don't want to lose that money. So it's just all about money and not about saving lives for a lot of the people that are up there.
Okay, so why don't you? I mean, we've basically told the audience that there's a bunch of liars that are telling them a bunch of lies. Okay, so let's get into how we're so confident that we're right and that they're liars. So
Yes.
can you just tell me what your journey was?
Yeah, so when COVID hit, I was still an anti-vaxxer. I still had an anti-vax following, but I started to see a lot of my anti-vax friends were not wearing masks, and they were fighting for the freedom to not wear a mask on Facebook. They were, acting as if they were fighting a war, that they were just sacrificing so much. They were so brave, and I just thought, wow, it's a mask. Just wear the freaking mask. Like, you could save a whole entire life. I don't understand. And then they were like, well, my kid's not going to develop well because they're not going to see people smiling and they're not going to understand words. Are you kidding me? And then it was like, oh, there's chemicals in the mask. Are there, Candace? Are there? So I started stepping back and thinking, this is ridiculous. I started speaking for masks, and I lost a ton of followers, which I was kind of like good riddance. But it was a moment where I was like, they're kind of being ridiculous. Maybe I'm wrong about other stuff. And I picked up a book called The Vaccine Book by Dr. Robert Sears. And I read the first half, and I didn't read the second half. I didn't know this. He's actually an anti-vaxxer. The second half talks about why you shouldn't get vaccinated. So good thing I just read the first half, because it kind of switched me over. It basically acknowledged that bad things can happen, but they're so rare. And to that point, I felt like no doctor had acknowledged that a bad thing could happen, which is not true. Doctors acknowledge things like that. But just reading this book, like, okay, this is the shot, this is the disease, this is how bad the disease can be, and these are what could happen with the shot. Now I'm going to tell you exactly how small of a chance that is. And I was like, okay, he's acknowledging those things. I mean, they're not ridiculous things like autism, but rare things, but he's also telling me how small of a chance. I mean, you're gonna get struck by lightning like 5 times before that would happen. And so he built this trust with me. I didn't read the second part of his book. So I started talking to some doctors and scientists online, and at first they were very hesitant to respond to me. And obviously they probably thought I was trolling them, because at that point I was like, okay, well, I have these legitimate fears. To me, they were legitimate. And, a ton of anti-vaxxers believe these fears that I'm about to talk about. I was like, they're not going to be able to cure my fears because I have science backing me up. And even if I wanted to be normal and become a pro-vaxxer and be a part of the community and just vaccinate my child, I couldn't in good conscience because I know all these things. So I presented all my worries to these scientists, and they actually had answers, and they just completely blew my mind. And I was like, you've just scientifically knocked everything I feared down with literal science. I don't have any reason not to vaccinate. After that, I was just like, oh my gosh.
So you got facted.
I got facted, and people say facts don't change feelings. Yeah. I strongly disagree, because a lot of anti-vaxxers are basing their beliefs on these unfounded facts.
So, I mean, that was similar to my story. I typed in 9/11 truthers debunked.
Oh.
Right? Just because I thought, man, I'm dumping so much energy into this, so much emotional energy, so much physical energy. I've got to, if I'm going to keep doing this, or I'm going to keep getting wrapped up in it, I need to know both sides. So I typed in debunked, and that was the beginning of my path. So it was very similar for you.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. I really want to dive into that. I'm so fascinated by conspiracy theories now that I'm not wrapped up in them.
Yeah, me too. I guess that's why we both are in this space, right?
Yes.
To in these conversations. So yeah, why don't you tell me about the? I know you have a podcast that you do with your friends.
Yeah, so back when I, came out, quote unquote, as a pro-vaxxer, I got so much hate. I mean, it was so bad. So bad. But Lydia Green, up in Canada, found me and reached out to me, and she said, hey, I have 3 kids. I vaccinated them for 12 years. I'm so sorry. I didn't vaccinate them for 12 years, and now they are almost completely up to date. I think we should link up. So we became really close, really fast, because we were going through it together. And we came up with Back to the Vax.
A technical snafu cut our conversation short. Thank you, Heather Simpson and Back to the Vax, for talking with me, and hope to chat again. Your journey, similar to my own and a growing number of others, is why I started doing this podcast. If you'd like to hear more of these conversations, please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening.
This is the Newsload.